Hi, everyone. Today we have an unusual guest, a guest who does not say who he was, but who he is today, who does not look back in time and brag of who he was and what he has done, but he brings everything today to the present and he says, I am there with everyone who is broken to mend them, to help them, and to inspire them. And he doesn't do this for money and he doesn't do this for fame. Yet, he doesn't do it for anything else but for conscience, humanity, love, and respect to every and each person out there who is losing the path of righteousness. Today, we have with us Anthony Russo. And Anthony, I was talking with him earlier, and he inspired me in a way that someone at his age is unable not to see all the struggles that he had been through, from jail to luxury, from luxury to jail, decision to be in prison, back and forth, all the struggles. Why will he go all through that? And how come he is changing all that and doing something totally different today? Let's welcome him and ask him. Hi, how are you, Anthony?
Very well, Ali. That was a great introduction. Thank you.
I just got inspired, because we're talking for, usually I don't write anything. I just keep it in my head, and whatever the person gives me inspiration, that's how it comes out from me, the idea.
Well, the only thing I hope is the unusual part. I've
You
never.
are unusually terrific.
That was good. It was a great.
And you are like a very challenging, like a superhero of Marvel, but in real life, like, yes, I'm here, but guess what? I'm not one of the bad guys, because me, I just look at people who just mature with age and they have so much wisdom to give. But someone who is in his early 40s, young as you, and who has all this advice and all this maturity and all this support and help and guidance to give to others, where does this come from?
I guess it was always inside me. I've always had this drive to help the weak, to help the bullied. It started at a young age. Was I a cool kid? I mean, where I grew up and where I came from, it wasn't like your typical movies where you had your cool kids, you had your stoners, you had your, and I'm going back to sandbox days because kindergarten is where this all started for me. I was bringing BB guns and Chinese stars to class for show and tell. I mean, that's, when the book comes out, look for it, Anthony Hootie.
Yay! Yeah, of course I'm going to read.
2022, HOOTIE 282 at Hootie 282. You can always just go on and see that. And you'll hear a lot of stories about that. And what it was it started, I always had that. I did help a lot of kids and I caused myself a lot of trouble with guys, tough guys, and not tough guys that we wind up becoming friends with some of them, and some of them I didn't growing up. Because I came from the days of you had a fight in the streets, win or lose, you wiped it off, you shook hands, and you guys were friends the next day. If you were from the same neighborhood or other neighborhoods. But that's what we did. We shook hands, it was over, we fought, and that was that. I came from the era where you had to fight. That was number one. And you had to brush it off. You wouldn't see the person every day. You just came from the same neighborhood. So, and you were kids. So it started with I had a cousin who had a cousin. So my cousin's cousin, which means her mother's my aunt, but her father had a nephew. So they were cousins and they got bullied, like going back as far as kindergarten. You make fun of them, glasses, whatever, the whole. And I remember at recess in kindergarten, the kids that were bothering them, I went to work on them. I beat up like two of the kids that did it. I was a tough kid. I fought. Not saying I won a lot. I remember losing a lot more than I've won, but I was always a fighter. I was a scrapper. That's what they would call me. I was a scrapper kid. I used to scrap. And it like took off from there. And I was like that in my neighborhood. You know, and then it was weird. By the time I got into like fifth, sixth grade, I would hang out with a group of kids that was like the Middle Eastern kid from Pakistan, an Asian kid from Hong Kong, you know, poor, you know, heavy metal kid, Irish kid, very.
But you came from Italy. You're the first generation who came from Italy, right?
My Sicily. My father came here in yes, Sicily.
But we always see in the movies like Sicilians are all mafia people. That's what we see. Is it true?
Well, it's true. No, not all Sicilians, because my father was against it. Even though some of his family members back in Sicily were called mafiosos, which that's the word you use in Sicily, not America. It's a Sicilian word. Now, why people get it confused is in Naples, northern Italy, anywhere outside of Sicily, they're called something different because mafia is a Sicilian word. In Sicilian dialect, mafia means like my daughter. That's how the word was. People hear this.
How does it connect with the idea of the word mafia that you use? Because, the gangster daughter?
The tale goes that we were being invaded by the French. And there was other ways that the mafia was born. We were speaking earlier, it was actually called the Honor Society. To say it in Sicilian dialect, I would mangle it. And a lot of people out there that speak Sicilian that I know would be very mad at me or would laugh at it. But it was called the Honor Society and then became the Mafia. But the French were invading Sicily. And as usual, no help from Rome. We've been invaded by the Moors, the Arabics, the French. We've been invaded by everyone.
What about the church thing that you were telling me before? I mean, this is very interesting.
That's how it happened.
I'm like, what is he saying?
Yeah. So what happens is the French are raping and pillaging the villages, and there was only farmers and village people there, no help.
So this is before the mafia was really.
There was no mafia yet. Yes. No mafia
yet. I mean, what age we're talking about? Which age? No, in the 80s.
No, this was like 12th century. No, this
was. Oh, okay. Whoa, all right.
We're talking about being invaded. The 80s, we weren't invaded. We had the help of the United States by then. We were taking, well, I mean, a lot of people don't know this as well, that America, the government, the United States of America, almost took Sicily the way we took Guam. And we were going to make it part of making it not a state, but part of our providence. But, politics or whatever happened. But if you go back and you read your history, we were looking to take Sicily after the whole Mussolini and even before that. But that's a story for another day.
The church. Tell me, I really want to know about the church.
A woman comes running out of her house. This is how the tale goes. Screaming, Mafia, Mafia, meaning my daughter. She was being raped. And they kind of used that word, which a lot of people will beg to differ. And I will as well, why the word was created and how it was created. But this was a story. And what happened was the villages rose up against the French and fought back. Not that we won, but we held them at bay, and eventually they left Sicily. And they came up with an idea to create something called the Honor Society, which people know to this day, when you make a Sicilian, he's a working man. The Sicilian likes to go under the radar as a mafioso, meaning back in Sicily, the barber was a made guy. The guy that ran the sheep herd was a made guy. The fruit guy, the fisherman, these guys were all part of this secret society that nobody knew about, because we went to Rome for help and we asked them for, the police, the Carabinieri, that was the officers today that they use and used years ago, but they wouldn't give us help. So what they did was the local towns in Sicily started paying bandits, ex-bandits, to catch new bandits, because they said, which Sicilians are very smart people, why not hire people that been there to catch the same kind of people that they used to be?
So it was basically a protection society. It was not to kill and just to protect.
No,
right? This is how it started, the idea.
It was to protect their land. They were tired of being walked on and stepped on, and Rome traveling the world, conquering countries, and not helping the one that was a boat right away
Mm.
that you probably could have swam from, Italy to Sicily.
Mm.
That's why you see a lot of people separate the two, because, Rome didn't give us a lot of help for a lot of years. The Moors, who are the Northern Africans, which is a Muslim group, ruled ruled Sicily from the year 800 to the year 1200. 400 years, the Moors ruled Sicily. And that's where they think, when you hear the whole story, that Sicilians have African bloodline, because they tainted our bloodline, because they were within our people for 400 years, marrying our women, raping our women, pillaging the villages, things like that. So with that, they rise up against the French. They held them at bay. Of course, they didn't win. But when they left, we asked Rome for help. Rome did not give us any help. And supposedly they had a ceremony inside of a church. And that's why when people see in movies, a lot of books, a lot of writings, a lot of people that are in Cosa Nostra donate a lot of money to the church, help the church, do a lot of things with the church. Any Sicilian you meet is a Catholic, not a reborn Christian, which all Catholics are Christians. That's the Christians are of a whole, but you'll never find a Sicilian that isn't a Catholic or a Christian. So they held their first meeting and ceremony inside a church, overseen by the head priest, bishop, whoever was running.
Well, what happened? Like, all these heroic deeds and the idea of protection, how can we just evolve to something that led to, crime? What did I miss in the middle? What's there that got?
You will never know the actual effects or
somehow, but let's say somehow.
I know the effects that power fell on men who were weak at once. Remember, a lot of these guys were most of them were ex-bandits. That's what they would call them in Sicily, bandits. Not thieves, they were bandits. And if you ever read the book, The Sicilian, they talk about bandits. But that was later on. That was right before World War II. And after World War II as well. The fascionists and all of that you can read about that stuff, because I don't do politics. So with that, you have...
Yeah, you don't do politics, but you can compare Mafia with the government of United States.
Structure. Not compare.
But giving example, it means you know about politics.
Just meaning as when I try to explain it to people and they don't understand how the Roman Empire
was. Interesting, the idea.
Yeah, well, because a lot of people don't understand how it's breaking down from the Roman Empire. That's where we got it from, from the Caesar to the generals, to the captains, to the...
Where is Cleopatra, let's say?
What's that?
Where is Cleopatra in all this?
Cleopatra?
Yeah.
Where most women do, ruining the world, which meaning not women, but women as Helen of Troy, which she was Helen of Sparta. I don't know where Helen of Troy came from. People need to do a little bit of the, history check on that. She created a war that destroyed a country named Troy that doesn't exist anymore.
But you don't see how many wars men make, and you just...
And that's, we were talking about women in Cosa Nostra, and I have a whole chapter in my book about that. And yes, Cleopatra was just another woman that, two friends, the boss and the underboss, which would be Caesar and his number one general, Antony.
How did you remember when we were talking, like, what? You said, like, it's the same way that they do the government, the system. It's the same way that the mafia.
Well, if you want me to break it down for the people in Canada, I'll break it down. It's much easier to explain to people how Cosa Nostra works if I don't give them the breakdown of the Roman Empire and how their army worked. Mm-hmm. We have a president in the United States. We have a vice president, and then there's a chief of staff.
Yeah.
Right? The vice president has one job. The president of the United States have another.
The president is Julius Caesar.
Right. Now you have Congress, right? Congress is the Bogata, is the commission. Well, let me Borgata is your family. The Gambino crime family is one Borgata. The Colombo crime family is another. So let me not use Borgata. We'll use it as the commission. So now the commission is Congress, meaning the president is the boss, but he has to, before he can make life-changing decisions within America, he has to sit in front of Congress, which we know a guy like Obama didn't. Never spoke with Congress, and that's probably why America is where it is today. But like, again, I don't like to talk about politics. So that would be the commission. The commission would be Congress. The president of the United States.
But we're analyzing the system. We're not talking politics. We're not talking about politics.
Yeah, just trying to do the system, trying to get it right. So you get the president of the United States, the vice president, Congress, and then you have the president's chief of staff. So a lot of people don't take it to a lot of consideration. The president sees the chief of staff on a daily basis, as the boss of a crime family sees his consigliere on a daily basis. You don't see his underboss. His underboss is taking care of his generals. The generals are the skippers, the captains of a crime family. So the vice president has one job, the president has another, but they never see each other. So that's the boss, the underboss, and then you got the chief of staff, who's the consigliere, who sees the president every day, gives him counsel, tells him what to do. And that's how an organized crime family.
And how old were you when you just decided and you went to be part of the mafia, Italian mafia?
I thought ever since I was able to walk, talk, and understand life, I wanted to be. I considered it that a gangster was a street guy. I didn't know that you could separate the two. When I was old enough to realize I could separate the two, I kind of pushed away from Cosa Nostra and stood in the street section until I met a group of guys that I've seen myself going into this life with and dying in this life with. And that's when I decided to turn my whole life into Cosa Nostra, not just the street. I always had my one foot in and one foot out, which in anything you do in life, in business, in a relationship, in your family, if you don't have both feet in, it's never going to work.
But still, you didn't say your age. Waiting. When you decided and you went in and you started.
5 years old. 5 years old. Since I was 5 years old, I was wanted to be.
Have you seen people dead? I mean, in front of you?
That's what I said. Ever since I've been able to walk, talk, and understand, I wanted to be a gangster my whole life.
But what is the difference between, like, you said that you wanted to be a gangster, and then now you have a totally different life. I mean, how many people like you think have to stand up and talk about this fatal game that will hurt them in order to stop newcomers or prevent others to be like mesmerized by the idea? Do you think that it's related to the movie industry? They are just encouraging people to go through because somehow they are also involved other powers, I'm not gonna name, in order to make money of this wrong things that are being done? Because I mean, I can see a lot of people like you coming out and saying, this is wrong. Don't go, don't be a mafia, don't member, don't go to gangs. But people are still going, and from one generation to another. How many Anthony Russos we need?
A lot.
How come?
Now, I'm an advocate for people that are already in the life. Now, if somebody, which I do all the time, I'll get a phone call or I get a DM, which anybody knows out there. If you hit me up at Hootie282 and you leave me a message, I will get back to you. Within 24 to 48 hours, it matters the time. I work 10 hours a day. I do podcasting. I mentor. That I will try to help anybody I can. I want to help the people that are in the life and haven't even seen or been where I've been. Sat with bosses, sat in meetings. Like, I knew the life was treacherous. Like, all the things I knew, I still wanted to be involved. I knew that I could have stood in the streets and made $20 million a year selling drugs, where I'm going to go into Cosa Nostra and probably make no money.
So when you say the word Cosa Nostra, it's the mafia. That's the real word.
Right? La Cosa Nostra.
La Cosa Nostra. Okay, so was for you, it was more about power then? If you're going to make the same money on the streets, why would you go?
No power. Never wanted power. Power came automatically the way I carried myself. I had the power before I joined Cosa Nostra. I had power before I joined Cosa Nostra. I was a drug dealer. I was a street guy. And I'm not saying power where I wield, like I had power where I could walk around with a diamond Rolex on in one of the worst neighborhoods in the city and nobody would come near me. I could walk around and sell drugs anywhere I want and no one would shake me down.
What infatuated you to take this decision?
Which one? Which decision?
To go, I mean, you said you already had all those things.
I met a group of guys that I seen.
Mafia.
Right. I wanted to always be part of something that was bigger than me. And Cosa Nostra, the life. The life, that's what we call it as well. Nobody's bigger than the life.
But you see life, but when you
I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be part of that. And I felt like it was my heritage. It was my birthright. Because
so you think that you're exceptional or you're entitled to that, right?
No, not entitled.
But at the time, you thought like that?
No, never. I've never been a self-entitled person. I felt like I earned it.
Okay, you earned it. You wanted to go in, but you're already seeing the life. What do you mean life when you have whatever it's bringing you? What difference when you say that you were already a drug dealer, you were already making money, you already had the power? So what am I missing here? What
I wanted to be something
in their life that you don't have?
You missed it 5 minutes ago. I wanted to be into something that was bigger than me.
I know, but what is you say bigger than you? Okay, this word, how do we simplify?
Meaning a family, a life, a brotherhood, the camaraderie.
A brotherhood.
It's all of that. Mm-hmm. It's wanting to be something bigger than me.
So the life
that in the army, you want to be part of something that's bigger than you. Make a difference. I felt like I could go into this life with these three gentlemen that I joined we decided together to go into this life, and we knew it was backstabbing, it was treachery, but we said, not us. We're going to use it as another outlet to make money. Because now that we have that power, now we're meeting people that are on other levels, other families, other crew members. Those are other outlets to make money. Mm-hmm. Did I need other outlets to make money? No, but it's always good to have. Because now I'm getting into bookmaking, shylocking, and you kind of got to be a little bit involved in Cosa Nostra to have that. But I wanted to be at a level where everybody would have been like, what are those guys doing? We can't touch those guys. Those guys are untouchable. So while I'm bookmaking and shylocking, people looking at me. When I'm selling drugs in the streets, they're staying away from me. You understand? So in that life, if I start bookmaking and shylocking, they'll know, all right, this is what he does. This is who he is. This is the crew that he's with. And I thought the guys that I was going in with, like one of them, I thought could have been the boss of the family that I was in. So I would have been his protector. I was always his protector. I would have been his back. I would have been his front. I would have led the way for him and followed him to the top. Was he as tough as me? No. Did he have this, the smarts in the way that I did? No. Did he have his own smarts? 100%. Did he know how to earn money? 100%. Did he know how the rules went? Yes. Did he obey them? Not as much, but more than others. So I seen this. I'm always playing chess, no matter what I'm doing in life. I was thinking 20 years from now, we could be crowning him, capo de tutti capo, which you need the vote of the commission more than, you can't. You got to have 3 votes to become the boss of all bosses, which a lot of people don't know. John Sr. never got that vote. Paul Castellano did. Carlo Gambino did. But I seen him one day being.
Who have you seen from these people that you name that we see through movies, their names, and we don't really know them in real life? Have you ever known or met some of them in your real life?
That you've heard their names in movies?
Yeah, Godfather. Like we watch all these movies, like Godfather and Scarface.
I've been in the streets since '82. So yeah, I've met a lot of guys that rose to boss, high-ranking members, hitmen, big-time drug dealers, big-time bookmakers, big-time shylocks. Yeah, I've met. The list is a mile long.
Why don't you? It's very interesting for me because you just told me before the interview that you decided to go to jail because A man has to go to jail and to
Oh,
come
I
back.
didn't decide to. I didn't decide to.
But you said you were ready, right?
They decided to, but I was ready to wear it. I was wearing it as a badge. When I came home, I was walking around with my chest puffed up.
So you go in and you come out and then you go in again?
Well, I did my first stretch of 2 years in 2006. It came home in 2008. I was away 2 years. Then I was on work release. And then we had a pinch before that for bookmaking. Skip bid, 6 months, home in 120 days on Rikers Island. I've been in that Rikers Island since my 20s. Mm-hmm. So, but my two last serious bids were 5 years in the feds that I came home in about 6 years ago. And then 2 years upstate, 6 months on Rikers Island, 4 months, 3 months, 30 days. I've done little skip bids like that on Rikers Island. So it wasn't that I went back in. I left Cosa Nostra in 2005. I get pinched on a pharmaceutical ring, big case back in 2005. I go to jail in 2006. I do 2 years. I come home on work release. I do 3 years of post supervision. A guy in my crew is an acting captain now at this point, and the other two guys are made guys already. So I stay away from them. I'm on their list. They're on my list. We happen to have the same parole officer for 6 months. He finishes parole. I stay on parole. 2011 comes around. 2010, we find out that we're going to be pinched. I don't think I'm going to be pinched. I'm out of Cosa Nostra. And the truth of the matter was, I was in Cosa Nostra to rise, not to make money. I never kicked up, and I never earned money inside of Cosa Nostra. Everything I earned, I had established before I got into Cosa Nostra. I wasn't a guy that stuck people up. I wasn't a guy that tied people up. I didn't plan robberies. I didn't do home invasions. I didn't rob banks. I would set up pipelines. I would set up drug connections. I would sell drugs. I set up card games, bookmaking operations, Shylock games, Joker poker machines, social clubs, things like that. That's how I was involved in Cosa Nostra.
Have you ever killed someone?
What's that?
Have you ever killed someone?
No.
Beat?
I don't believe in violence.
Beat?
A lot of fights. A lot of fights.
Because I'm like, seriously, why don't you just say I killed someone? But then, okay, he wouldn't be here, right? He would be in jail. You think that in jail there are people that they shouldn't be there, and others, murderers that are out of jail?
There's a very small percentage that shouldn't be in jail. There's a very small percentage. The people that are in jail, they belong in jail. 95% of the people in jail belong.
So you're saying like literally
they belong doing the time that they're doing? Absolutely not. Do they deserve the charges that they were charged with? Absolutely not. I think 8 out of the 10 RICO charges that I pleaded out to, and it was a terrible move, and it was actually such a bad deal that I would say just a high-powered attorney for the government that's retired now, actually said to me that it was an awful deal. Like they give you, and especially for being Italian, and if you're a made guy, they don't think there's a rehabilitation in you. If you're a made guy, you get extra time just for that. It's not a law. It's like an unwritten rule spoken behind closed doors. But the judge or the U.S. attorney is going to give you more time for having your button than they would associate.
So you say that you deserve to serve the time, but not the way that you were charged with the thing.
And the places that they send you to, and not the time that they give you. There is rehabilitation. But that's why the feds don't have programs. See, in the state of New York, this is the one thing, and people might think I'm crazy, but it has logic to it. In the state of New York, you get arrested. They do an investigation like they did with me. They did a whole investigation, a year long. They pinch me in a pharmaceutical ring. I get locked up. Those officers, they don't take it personal. They move on to the next case. I get sent to jail. I do my time. I come home. They throw me in a pool called parole or probation, and they have to worry about me. Now, I may start committing crimes again, but those same officers aren't going to come looking for me. It would be somebody else. Where the FBI, when there's nobody else to lock up in Cosa Nostra, they start going through files. Not the FBI, because everybody blames the FBI for everything. They're just investigators. It's the U.S. attorney. They'll just start opening up old records going,
how about the informants?
We haven't heard from this guy in a while. Let's go check and see.
What about the informants from Mafia?
What about
what's your opinion about them? I mean, do you blame them? Do you think that it's their kind of redemption, or do you find that they're just people with no principle?
I believe if you take an oath, you live by, and you live and die by that oath. That's one thing.
And what oath were we talking about here in this case?
If you take the oath of omerta, the oath of silence.
And the oath of silence, it comes like Mason thing in the Mafia thing? Oath of silence?
They have a ceremony for that. And I think if you take that oath, you live and die by it. Now,
so how come that you take that oath of silence and you talk and write books? What's the difference? It means...
What do you mean?
Okay, you informants, and you say that you take an oath.
Oh, you're getting everything confused. There's people that inform. There's people that cooperate.
Of course I'm confused. I don't know as much as you. I haven't lived your life. That's why I had you to explain to me.
Not just being like, because you can't just categorize it as inform. There's cooperators.
No, I'm talking informants.
There's informants. There's cooperators. Yeah,
but in Mafia and became informants for the government.
The guy that wants to put his enemy in jail is an informant. Then you have a guy that goes in and cooperates. Then
I'm not talking cooperation. I'm talking informants who were Mafia gang members who became informants and work with the government.
Become cooperators. An informant stays an informant, meaning he stays in whatever he's in.
Okay.
And he informs.
Whatever synonym or the idea, because I don't know the meaning, that's why I had you to tell me.
Yeah, right. So that's why I'm going to break it down.
Yeah.
An informer is somebody that informs on others, goes to, maybe gets locked up for something and says, you know what? Put me back onto the street and I'll be your personal informant. Now, whoever that guy is, if it's a New York State police officer, a detective, or if it's an FBI agent, now you belong to that guy. He lets you out on your charge, but those charges are still going to hang over your head. Because if you get caught lying or you get caught doing a violent crime or still committing crime, they could pull your deal and pull that away from you. But in the meantime, there's informants that just inform for no reason. Then there's informants that inform for a paycheck, but they'll go and they'll just give information. Well, listen, so-and-so's having a meeting with this crew and they're going to whack up drug money from this part of the Bronx. And that's what an informant does. Goes to his handler, because that's what it's called. If it's state, detective, FBI, U.S. attorney.
We're giving different titles, but in the end of the day, they are betraying and breaking the oath of silence.
If they were made.
They're snitching, right?
If they were made.
They're ratting out their friends, right?
If they were made. If they took that oath. If they didn't take that oath.
Those people I'm talking about, I said people who were in Mafia, who take the oaths, or I didn't know that they take oaths, but when
that's what I'm telling you.
Official members,
there's a lot of people in the Mafia that don't take,
and who chooses the ones who take oath? They do that, or people for them, they think that they are valuable enough to take oaths. And what are there conditions?
Yes,
Italian Mafia?
Absolutely.
Have to be Italian, first of all?
Not no more. You had to be Sicilian. That was number one.
Oh, not Armenian.
Well, listen, they straighten anybody out today. It don't make a difference. You're Armenian, Irish, Jewish. They give guys buttons. As long as you could somewhere find an Italian last name somehow, they'll straighten you out. But look out west. Al Capone was never a made guy. Nobody out west was made. Those guys, none of them were even Sicilian. You know, John Torrio was Al Capone's boss. He was from New York, and they sent Al Capone there. Al Capone had a death sentence. They were going to kill him. He got into a fight in Coney Island. That's how he's got the scar on his face. And a very famous mafioso at the time saved his life and shipped him to Chicago to run errands for Johnny Torrio. When Johnny Torrio officially retired after being shot so many times, Al Capone, there was nobody out there to take over. New York didn't send anybody. Cleveland didn't send anybody. St. Louis didn't send nobody. The partnership in Detroit didn't send anybody. So Al Capone took over on his own. And with that, he never took an oath. So there's people like me, if I'm an associate and I'm earning, and I go to the weddings, and I go to the funerals, and I go to the social clubs, and I go to the sit downs. And when I come in, I tell the truth. I let them know, this is the flag I wave. I wave your flag. I show your flag. This is who I am. That person will eventually say, I want to put this man up proposed to his captain. He has to talk to his captain. Then his captain would check into me and say, okay, so the $10,000 a month that you've been giving me, 2,500 of that comes from Hootie. Yeah. Also, he's a good earner. He keeps his mouth shut. He don't deal in drugs. He stays out of trouble. Let's put him on a probation run. They won't say probation run, but let's watch him for a while, a little bit more thorough for the next year or so. You'll get watched. And if that captain feels that you are Cosa Nostra material, made guy material, that you can carry yourself like that, then he'll put you on a paper. That paper will get passed around and people will approve it. And if one person says no, that person has to go to the table with the captain that proposed you and give his reason why he doesn't want you to have a bond, me, whoever. And if that reason is valid enough, I can be pushed back 5 years.
Seeing everything that you have been through, if we go back in time, what is the biggest regret of Anthony Russo?
Yeah, you know what? I say this, and I say this all the time, sitting in the box with my own thoughts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're counting the bricks on the wall because that's all you got left to do. After 4:30 and your last meal served, you don't have human contact or human anything. You really don't have contact.
Last meal served?
It's like 4:30 when you're in the box. I'm just saying, this is the place where people happen to find God because they didn't find them before that. Don't ask me how. But this is where they have their demons and their crosses that they bear. I've never had that. So I go back and I look, I say family. I would have liked to have been more of a family man. I would have liked to have done better. I know how good of a family member I was, but I know how good of a family member I could have been. Much better. That's my probably, because anything else, if I regret, I'm not here today helping all the people that I am helping today.
Yeah, but when you go back to your regrets, your regrets did not define who you are today, but you learn from them, and the experience of the regrets, realizing that it's a regret, you bring them today and you invest and make them right. Because if you haven't done what you have been through, you wouldn't be Anthony Russo today, who's writing a book. Or am I not right?
Will tattoo no regrets across their forehead. You know what I mean? Just because they don't believe, they won't admit it. Me, my only regret in life is family. I wish I was a much better family man.
If, let's say, I don't want a name. Let's say if there is one person who is most special to you through your lifetime, and this person, whoa, now it's getting serious, eh? And this person is in front of you now. I don't want a name. I don't want to know who this person is. What you would say to this person that you missed that chance before? Let's say that person is in front of you now. That one person, one special person above everyone else.
I should have treated you with more of the respect that you deserved at the age that you were, when I thought that you shouldn't have been treated with that.
Wow.
And that was my child. I told my child one lie in my life. And it was the only lie I've ever told my child. And that was the lie that broke my relationship with my child. I could tell you, that I have no problem saying that. And to this day, I lose sleep over it.
And what is
one
your
lie that
today?
I thought was meaningless. Like, no, what are you talking about? Forget about that. And put the radio on while
And
we were
how
talking.
about
And this child at a young age, you know how somebody says,
they forget they
you
don't.
ask questions you already know the answers to?
Hmm.
At 8 years old, this child had the answer to the questions that they were asking.
How old?
Outsmarted me, 8 years old. Outsmarted me. Asked me a question that they knew for sure the answer to already. And instead of me addressing it and explaining it, I blew it off with a lie. No, you must be crazy. That's you listen to your mom again. Don't believe that.
Babies. You say you were talking in plural tense.
No, just one person.
Okay. Okay. Now I know that you're writing a book, and everybody write books, but the main, I mean,
My book's for a reason.
the accomplishment that you are expecting to get from the book you're accomplishing now. I mean, but what is it that you're trying to get when this book is being published out there? What is the
as you know, being an author, there's not a lot of money in writing books.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not in it for the money. I want to tour this book all over the world. I want to bring it to Europe, the UK, America. I want to give somebody the first book where they say, well, names had been changed, stories and times had been changed. I'm going to give them a modern day look into something they've never seen before. The street, Cosa Nostra, a guy involved in Cosa Nostra who never kicked up to anybody and never spoke to anybody or sat down with less than a maid guy or a captain. I have a lot of things that I've done in my life that people could say what they want, but I'm probably the only man to come out of the streets and held the spots and done the things that I've done, survived it. And I want to come in and write it and tell you how I survived it, how you're not even close to where I was and what I could be. So you don't belong in that life. That's my accomplishment. Get out. Because when people say they want to help children, I respect that. But kids and people don't like to listen to corporate. Now, I say corporate is if you're doing a job for a company. Let me explain this to you so before we can break this up. If you work for a company, you have a guy come down from the corporate office and tells you, we need it done this, that, and that. And all this guy's ever done was sit behind a computer. He's never came down to the floor and actually unloaded that truck to know that if he takes that box out from another box, you're going to break everything that's underneath it. Where if you get a guy like me who sits in front of you and tells you, listen, I don't use Google, but if you want to use Google, if you want to go ask your sisters, because you want to go back to my old neighborhood and ring doorbells, go ask them about me, go ask them who I am, then come back here. If I'm validated enough, then I'll tell you why you shouldn't do this. People will listen to you more when you've been through it than the people that haven't been through it just know about it. That people that call them experts, they're not experts, they're historians. You have to go through something to be an expert. To be good at something, you have to have done it, not listen to people tell you about it. So when they say help children, it's not that I don't want to help children. Children have to get their hand burnt before they realize the fire is hot. Adults think after a while, it's not going to burn anymore. I'm used to it. No, it's always going to burn. That's your mentality, thinking that it's not going to burn anymore. And I want to be the person here to tell you to stop that.
It's amazing what you're saying. I mean, we can go hours and hours talking, but my last question today to you, Anthony Russo, do you think as humans, we are at the brink of losing humanity? And how can we change that or avoid that or become more human, living a life that you have?
You just got political, religious,
No, I know the way you
one
do.
question and all the things I don't do. You wrap that all up in one question. That makes you a good author.
Well, I'm a journalist, author, life coach, so
Right. That's what makes you a good journalist. But
thank you so much. It's an honor to have a credit from someone like you.
But it's exactly the truth. You see all of that? That's nonsense. That's what people put into our heads. Humanity is not going anywhere for a long time.
Wow.
It's listen, every couple of years, I mean, not every couple of years, let's say every couple of centuries, we got to restructure. We got to start all over, right? The dinosaurs were wiped out. The humans were born. This is what happens. Humanity's fine.
What's not fine?
Are human beings a bunch of idiots right now? Yeah, of course.
But human beings are humanity. That's what they represent.
Humans were born to make faults. That's who we are. We're not perfect. We weren't created to be perfect. We have to find the roadmap and we have to follow it the right way. America as a country isn't doing that right now. We had the roadmap with a certain person in office, but people, because of their own stupidity and their own thoughts about somebody for other reasons, didn't follow the sign that was saying we're doing great, pay attention. So without getting into politics and religion, this country is going to be fine. Other countries are going to be fine. We just have to find ourselves again. That's all.
How can we do that if others are writing, drawing the map?
The problem is it starts in the classrooms, taking away history. We have to look back at our founding fathers. We have to look back about the people that came before us. We have to look back at the people that sacrificed
to find pride, to be avoiding repeating.
Once in a while, like I say, there's a reason why the rear view mirror is a lot smaller than the windshield. The windshield is your future. It's in front of you. Your rear view is behind you, your past. But once in a while, you have to look up into that rear view to see what's behind you. So I'm a strong believer in once in a while, we got to look back to our past and think, maybe I should pick up an encyclopedia. Maybe I should read The Fall of the Roman Empire. Maybe I should, the stuff that they're taking out of the classrooms, maybe I should go find that somewhere in a secondhand store if they still carry that book and find out why it worked so well back then and it's not working today. We have to do that as human beings. We have to look back. We can't let our past decide our future for ourselves. It will define us and help us, but we can't let it control our future. But we can let it help us. We can learn from it.
But it cannot define who you are today, but you learn from that.
You learn from it. What defines you today is everything. Your thoughts on the future
and
your thoughts on what you did.
Even though I said this is the last question, you just encourage you to say one more question. This is the last one, I promise. We're very happy, first of all, and congratulations on your book. And we're looking forward, everybody. Anthony Russo is getting his book published, and we are very interested to read. I'm very interested to read it. I'm now that I know you more and I know more about you, I will be more interested more and more. But my last question is... Well,
wait, before you get to your last question, when I'm done reading your book, you're going to come on my show and talk about it? We love to have strong, independent women on our show and the Hootie and JC show. So I'm locking in. Can I, because I'm not supposed to be, I'm only doing an interview because you're in Canada. And I'm coming to Canada with my book first.
Welcome.
I want the Canadian people.
We welcome you with open arms, my friend.
I want the Canadian people behind the Hootie. I want all the Canadian people. These are wonderful people. I love the Canadian people.
Thank you.
So that's why I did this today. I wasn't, and I'm not supposed to be doing any more interviews. And when you reached out,
you told me because you're Canadian, Natalie. That's why.
Because you're Canadian. Hey, listen, I'm biased to a point, but that's why I did this interview today. This will be my last interview. There will be no more. And I kind of felt like this was a conversation just to enlighten you into things you didn't know about, because you're a journalist and you're an author and you're always looking to learn things and, like a sponge. So with that, will you come on the Hootie and JC show one day?
I will be very happy to do that. Of course I will. Yeah, I'm saying this in front of my viewers, so
that's why that's why I put you on the spot before you answer the last
Don't
question.
worry. I mean, when we have something to say and something to inspire, and there are on every platform we can do it because we'll have different audiences. Yes. That's why we should do as much as we can, because we all have different vocations in life. Anthony Russo, do you think that Anthony Russo, after all these years, had found his vocation in this lifetime? This is my last question.
Not yet.
Mm.
I'm on my way. We spoke about something about your book and what I'm going through with somebody right now and the path that I'm taking with the mentoring. Yes, I'm on my way, but not yet. Not yet. There's still a lot of work to do.
So because you did not give me the answer to that question.
I gave you the answer, not yet.
No, but it's not an answer. Come on, you're being unfair. Okay. Well, how much do you think there is fear in each and every person who had been involved in Italian mafia or other gang groups that they just tell the truth, but they avoid names or they misuse the truth because they are scared? So is there fear of names, of certain secrets, or there are people 100% free and they don't care anymore? Is there a threatening fear, an idea of a gun, always you have to watch your back? Is this something that they have to live with their whole life, even if they're done? Or is just my illusion? Just tell me it's my illusion.
That's a great question. Great question.
Tell me it's my illusion.
I plead the fifth. I'm only kidding. I will answer that. I don't believe in fear. I do not fear. So I have none. Do I believe others? Yeah. I think they're cowards.
But I'm not talking Anthony, just you. I'm talking, is
Me?
this a fact that
Well,
if you don't fear,
I can't give you a fact.
Something might happen?
I'm not an expert.
Are you in danger?
I can give you my opinion. I can't give you a fact because I'm not an expert.
I want your opinion based on experience. Okay. I don't want.
From my experience, there's a lot more people that have fear in them than don't. And from my experience, nobody cares. That's why they did it. Nobody cares. They're cowards, most of them.
Nobody cares. People who are
nobody cares that they hurt.
Or people.
Nobody cares about what they did, who they hurt. They don't care. They don't care. I'm very one of the few. I didn't even hurt anybody, but I care that I'm no longer going to be friends with or associate with or break bread with people that I used to. Now, they are bad people, but there's a lot that aren't bad as well. So with that, I fear nothing. I've lived my life. Like I tell anybody, I'll say it again. If I die today walking down the street from a bullet in the back of the head or 20 years from a heart attack or cancer, what's the difference? My ticket's getting punched no matter what. It's inevitable. Everybody's going to end up there. So if that's the way it happens, it was supposed to happen years ago because that was the life I lived. I was just the lucky one that made it out.
Thank you so much, Anthony. It was an amazing interview. I hope you enjoyed the interview. This is Natalie Restokian, and we have our wonderful guest, Anthony Russo. I did it my way. So leave a comment. See you soon. Bye.
Stay up.